I really didn't have time to admire lustrous sceneries with beautiful girls. Oh my god. What's up, guys? This is MotorDaffodil64 bringing you part 5 of the demo for Love, Money, Rock and Roll. I'm fairly sure we're getting close to the end of the demo. From what I read, this new demo consists of 5 in-game days, and if my mental math is correct, I'm pretty sure we're on the 5th day already. Obviously, so much is happening in the plot for this game. Like, I can barely keep track of it. There's just so much going on. At first, it was just the suspense involving Nikolai's father and the threats, and now there's something going on between Catherine and... oh my god, I'm already forgetting names. This is so bad. But basically, there's a lot of drama in a lot of different places. Lots is happening right now. So, you know what, without further ado, let's just pick up where we left off. The lesson had been going for 5 minutes already, but Catherine had yet to get back to class. And to top it off, her things disappeared too. I couldn't tell for sure if they were there when I returned. I just didn't pay attention. Finally, the school day came to an end. I felt a pressing need to talk to Himitsu, even though I didn't really know what I would say. And what could I say? With everything that's happened today, I completely forgot about my yesterday's conversation with Ichinose. And he gave me a lead, too. Himitsu, Catherine... but what about the note, the call? I had to find out what this was all about, right? It seemed like this decision could seriously impact my life from now on. To go to Himitsu, or to try to solve the mysteries of my father's past. Oh god, it's gonna make me choose. Damn it! No! Okay, alright, this isn't too hard. I did just go to Himitsu last time, and yes, I really want to know about the drama, whatever is unknown that is going on between Catherine and Himitsu. I desperately want to know. But we did just pick Himitsu last time, so I'm gonna choose to look for answers. Ultimately, Himitsu wasn't about to disappear, and I had more important things to do. I left the school and hesitantly stopped at the gates. How many waterfronts did Tokyo have exactly? I didn't even really know. I should have clarified this with Ichinose, although it looks like he wasn't sure where to look for the Sakura himself. Well, just wonderful. Go I know not whither, and fetch I know not what. And then the most obvious idea came to my head. I needed to call the information center. I quickly reached the nearest phone booth and dialed the number. Hello, good afternoon. I'm looking for a man called Akira Shinji. I know that he owns a restaurant somewhere on a waterfront. Please wait. A strident female voice sounded out of the receiver. It took at least 5 minutes and as many coins, but finally I got a response. Unfortunately, I couldn't find anyone with this name. So did Ichinose lie to me? No, that would be too stupid. Are you sure? However, in Tokyo, there are 36 restaurant owners whose surname is Akira. What, did he mix up the name of a colleague he worked with many years ago? I definitely wasn't ready to believe that. Could you tell me how many of them are located on a waterfront or somewhere close? The sound of rustling pages came from the other end of the line. 5 restaurants. Well, that narrows it down. Perfect. Could you please spell out the addresses? I quickly took a notebook with a pen from my school bag and wrote down the names of the streets and the numbers of the houses. All in all, it turned out they were located in different parts of the city. Fortunately, or unfortunately, I had nothing else to do today. In 3 of the 5 restaurants, no one had ever heard of Akira Shinji. They could have lied to me, of course, but I had no way to check. Although for some reason it seemed to me like an ex-scientist wouldn't have the money to own a relatively upmarket restaurant with a European cuisine to top it off. And that's exactly what all 3 places were like. I was jumbling in a subway car filled with people. The 4th restaurant was about half an hour away from the last, and that, too, turned out to be a failure. It was closed for sanitary disposal. The 5th one was located on a waterfront in Tokyo's suburb. 5th time's the charm, hopefully? I left the station and was plunged into a completely different world. It'd been a long time since I'd been so far away from home. Here, the neat, modern brick buildings mostly gave place to 100-year-old wooden shacks. The scenery reminded me of my grandmother's village where I'd been a couple times as a kid. The houses were clinging to each other as if preparing to fight back a tsunami coming from the ocean. Judging by the looks, they had already managed before. With mixed results. I never managed to find a single sign with a street name or a building number. I tried asking people on the streets. Excuse me? But that was a hopeless cause. Almost every second house was either a restaurant or a shop. and Akira was too common of a surname. I was fruitlessly barging into one restaurant after another. Ramen, sushi, ramen, some kind of fish. Well, figures, after all, I was on the waterfront. The strong smell of the fresh and not-so-fresh fish was starting to make me feel nauseous. I bought a can of beer and sat down on a bench to get some air and rest. Far on the east, at the skyline where the ocean met the sky, the first stars had already started to appear, while the mountains on the west were still ablaze with the rays of the sunset. The sight was spellbinding. Perhaps I didn't find Akira, but I certainly didn't come here for nothing. The beer was running out, and my soul begged to go get another can. Halt! I seem to have been having myself too much alcohol lately. Sent by a precise throw, the can departed to the nearest bin. Small Japanese women with giant bags in their hands and on their shoulders were running back and forth around me. Small Japanese men were boisterously pushing big fish-filled carts in front of them. Merry yells, ship honks, and the noise of the loading cranes was coming from the port. Languidly sprawled on the beach, I watched this human anthill, watched hundreds of people carried by their everyday bothers walk past as they paid no attention to me. It was so good to not have to run anywhere, to not have to live my life constantly suffocated by the stench of fish. No, I didn't feel superior or better than these simple workers. More like I was different, granted comprehension of the wisdom of existence. For a second, a familiar face flashed in the crowd. Or was that just my imagination? I needed some time to get back to reality from the world of dreams. No, that certainly was Kagome. I jumped up and headed after her. Moving forward in the thick flow of people wasn't easy. I was shoved, my feet were stepped on, I was angrily hissed at. Sometimes Kagome would appear several meters in front of me and then disappear behind the people's backs. Finally, I jumped out onto a relatively free part of the waterfront, but the girl had already vanished into the air. But I was absolutely certain it wasn't just my imagination, it was Kagome whom I was chasing. The night fully closed in. I was aimlessly wandering the waterfront, all my hope of finding Kagome gone. The streets grew empty. The cool, salty air blew from the ocean. The temperature abruptly fell. It was time to get going back. I was about to turn towards the station, but the corner of my eye caught the sight of Kagome, big bags in her hands, appearing on a brightly lit entrance to a shop. "Hey!" I shouted, but she didn't hear me. It was too far, and the noise of the surf didn't help. "Hey!" I rushed towards her, but in literally a couple seconds, Kagome entered a building. The Gifts of the Sea restaurant. What an original name. The owner's name was written on a sign nearby. Akira Moriyuki. Well, damn me. Was that really the place? I jerked the door's handle, but it didn't give. It appeared the restaurant was closed today. And what was I to do now? Knock? But whom would I find there? That very Akira? What if it's just a coincidence? And what would Kagome be doing here? There were more questions than answers, and the answers lay on the other side of the door. I knocked. Several minutes passed, but nobody responded. The insides of the restaurant itself were dark, but the light blinked once on the second floor, the one with the living area, which meant I was heard, unless, of course, it was inhabited by deaf people. I knocked again. "Hey!" A rough male voice resounded a couple meters from me. I turned my head and saw a policeman who was quickly walking towards me. "What are you doing here?" What was I doing exactly? Standing, knocking the door. It wasn't late enough for a lone school student to evoke suspicion from a guardian of the law, which meant someone had called the police. For example, this Akira Moriyuki or Kagome. My plan certainly couldn't make room for a trip to the police station, and I broke into a run in the direction of the station. Oh my god. I was in no danger of being shot at, and the full-bodied man of about 50 had no chance to catch up to the running me. After reaching the station, I stopped to catch my breath. Well, damn. What the hell was that? I could guess that Akira, the owner of these Gifts of the Sea, was somehow connected to Akira Shinji. What did Kagome have to do with it? But I was so tired I only wanted to get home as fast as possible. After taking the train, I immediately fell asleep and only by some miracle didn't miss my stop. There was a note under my door. I strainedly bent down, grasped it, and read. "Nico-kun, you've disappeared again. Do you not want to talk to me? I'm worrying, you know. What's going on with you lately? Call me. H." I let out a heavy sigh, opened the door with my key, stumbled into the hallway, and sprawled on the floor. I'm done. Enough adventures for today, I said into the nothingness and crawled to the living room without even taking my shoes off. The same images were surfacing over and over in my head. Kagome's frowny face in the school, her silhouette vanishing into the crowd at the waterfront, her distant figure disappearing behind the door of the Gifts of the Sea restaurant. I couldn't put the pieces of the puzzle together. These tasks were beyond my understanding. Like in a trashy mystery novel, my life was ensnared by invisible threads, weaving themselves together into a deadly web. A strange note and frightening phone calls? My quiet classmate being connected to my father's work? What next? Was it about to turn out that Himitsu and Catherine were secret agents working for Japan and USA, respectively? I don't know if they're agents, but they're up to something, I know that much. The fridge was empty. There wasn't even a bowl of instant ramen in the cupboard. I fiddled Himitsu's note in my hands and read it again. Perhaps it would be better to call her? After all, she was worrying about me. And it wasn't even about my hunger. Wasn't it, though? I am definitely going to call. I don't want to be a total douchebag when it comes to Himitsu. The tone the note was written in seemed to be leaving me no choice. I took off the receiver and dialed her number, all the while feeling like a child waiting for a punishment from his strict parents. It took a while for the call to get answered. Yes? Hi. Well, hello. Himitsu's voice was cold, emotionless. Oh god. I've read your note here. Sorry, I've been really busy lately. Lots of things to take care of. Connected to my parents. I didn't want to tell her the whole truth, but was also tired of lying. Or rather, I just didn't have the strength to think of something relatively comprehensible. I didn't know. You could have told me, Himitsu said in an injured voice. I didn't want to upset you. Do you think you aren't upsetting me acting like this? Did something happen? Your parents. She didn't finish the sentence. No, nothing bad happened. Just an old acquaintance showed up. Silence. Don't worry, it's not about debts or anything of the sort. Nothing bad will happen to me. I wanted to believe this myself. You probably haven't eaten today properly at all, Himitsu asked, ignoring my words. I guess. Alright, wait for me. A couple minutes later, Himitsu was already in the kitchen preparing dinner. So will you tell me what happened? Yeah, Father just had some unfinished business with his ex-colleagues, so I'm sorting them out. It's about his work, nothing interesting. I see, she drawled. It looked like she didn't believe me, but it didn't look like she was about to pry. Sorry for not calling you yesterday. At least we saw each other at school. I'm not lying, just very tired. Himitsu put several plates and dishes on the table. Aren't you going to eat? No, it's not good to eat a lot late in the evening. But good for me? Well, walking around starving is not exactly great either. She smiled for the first time this evening. I picked up the chopsticks and flung myself onto the food. Maybe you're not lying, but you're clearly not telling the whole truth. Huh? I was so focused on chewing, it seemed like someone turned off the sound in the rest of the world. Something is happening with you, and it's not just about Kedi-chan, and it hurts that you're hiding something from me. But you can't just keep everything inside. If only you could share with someone. I've got no one to... I stopped short. This would be me admitting that I didn't have anyone closer than her in my life. And perhaps that was true, but sometimes you want the truth, even if it's indeed the truth, to keep far away. You know I tell you everything, and if I don't, it means there's just nothing to tell. I supported the lies with the nicest smile I was capable of. I want to believe you, Himitsu said sadly. And anyway, we've got nothing but melancholy around here lately. That's not right. Let's go out somewhere. It's nighttime. Well, I didn't mean now, tomorrow, or on the weekend. All right. She smiled and stood up. I'll go now. Good night. When the door closed behind her, I let out a sigh and uttered, one thing after another. After finishing dinner, I remembered the tiredness, and my whole body immediately seemed to be filled with lead, my eyes closing as if by themselves. Slumber brought me the long-awaited relief. The 11th of September, 1987. What do you know? There is still more to the demo. Yay! I was so sure I was at the end of it. The morning came suddenly. Yesterday's tiredness seemed to have vanished as if by magic, even though I only managed to get 4 or 5 hours of sleep. I delightedly stretched and went to the kitchen. On the table lay a simple breakfast and a note. "Nico-kun, see you in school. H." I imagine Himitsu's displeased face and couldn't help but smile. It would be funny if it wasn't so sad. She had a peculiar way to be upset with me. What if I did something really bad? Would she make porridge instead of a 3-course meal? On the other hand, it was all very sad. But there were more important things to worry about now. Today, I definitely had to talk to Kagome. I walked down the street, tossing up and catching a ripe red apple Himitsu left behind. It could just turn out to be my last food until the evening. Thoughtful, I was walking through the school's yard. Suddenly, joyful shouts coming from the pool reached my ears. Someone clearly was living life merrier than me. Who was it, I wondered? I slowly headed to the fence and hid behind bushes. Splashing around in the pool was the parallel class. Is it bad that I don't know what that means? Oh, hello. There was nothing interesting to it, and I was about to leave for the school building, but my eye stopped on Ellie. She looked gracious, perhaps even aristocratic. Both in a school uniform, an informal gown, and in the swimsuit. Reflecting from the water, the flecks of sunlight played on her smooth skin. The wet hair fluttered in the wind, and the smile was so blinding, Ellie couldn't help but stand out among the rest of the girls. I wonder if beauty always came complete with wealth and success. In any case, her life was most certainly simpler than mine. And it wasn't even about the events of the past several days. Ellie simply didn't have to worry about the future. And what about me? Was I going to finish school and go work for food? In another life, our positions could be switched. Although, it could be that in this life, too, there was her complete opposite, Kagome. Well, Ellie might have had the better looks, but I caught myself thinking that I was comparing apples to oranges. Or rather, a girl wrapped in a gigantic puffer jacket, in felt boots, and with a thick wool kerchief on her head, to a girl dressed in an evening gown with professional makeup on her face. Kagome. I really didn't have time to admire lustrous sceneries with beautiful girls. Oh my god! Wow, is that not horrible and perverted and wow. I was about to leave when Ellie suddenly looked right at me and froze for a second. She suddenly cried out and waved her hands at me. That's the last thing I needed. All of her classmates turned their heads in my direction. Now I was going to be known as the school's pervert. Japan had it strict. What next? I've been a layabout, been a hooligan, been a slacker, but never a pervert. Anyway, this wasn't the best time for ruminations. The illustration of him is just perfect. I crouched and broke into a run away from the pool. Stopping only at the school's entrance, I looked behind only to see no pursuit. I was sure they couldn't see my face among the bushes, which meant it was too early to crown myself with the title of pervert. It would take some work yet to deserve it. I had already finished changing my shoes and was about to go to the class when an exclaim resounded behind my back. Oh no. Hey, you! In front of me stood Ellie, her breath heavy. Didn't even change out of your swimsuit? When I'd already started to think you were normal, to peek at girls! Well, to be fair, there were guys there too. I decided to play the fool. I have no idea what you're talking about. Hi, by the way. Stop pretending! I've just seen you at the pool. At the pool? What would I be doing there? I don't even know how to swim. Stop clowning around! She interrupted me and stepped closer. If for some reason you think you'll come out clean, doubt I'll be cleaner than you. I looked down at her swimsuit. Oh my god. What? Poor her. For a couple seconds, Ellie was trying to understand what was going on, but finally it dawned on her. You pervert! She covered herself with her hands and hid behind a locker. The passerby students had already been casting puzzled gazes at her, but after this move, started to circle us around at a respectable distance. So swimming in a swimsuit is okay, being in front of your guy classmates is okay, and here with me is not? It looked like Ellie just wasn't listening to me. She kept glaring daggers left and right like a cornered lion. You know you're not exactly in the right uniform for the school, right? It's all your fault! It looked like she started to understand the meaning of my words a little and even glanced at me from behind the locker. You damn voyeurist! I wasn't peeping on you, I just passed by. Is it my fault our pool's there? It really was a very weird place for a pool, actually. Why were you watching then? Ellie said, calming down a little. Just daydreaming. It was a bad excuse. The bottom line was that I was still peeping. Okay, fine, I'm a pervert. Happy now? Lazy born of the House Enochian, the father of lust, the king of hooligans, do-nothings, and future hobos. A light smile appeared on Ellie's face. It's probably the first time she smiled at us. You're a strange one. Can't even be angry with you properly. Is this a compliment? From the outside came a cool wind, and she shivered. Watch it. I forgive you, but for the first and only time. Ellie ran back to the pool, her head cast down. I wonder how much did this incident damage her reputation of the queen of the school? Or was she absolutely inviolable? Would it take something worse for everyone to see that the queen was, in fact, naked? She's not naked. Be nice. Giggling, I entered my class. The Ellie event lifted my spirits and distracted me from the worrying thoughts of the coming conversation with Kagome. Meanwhile, her desk was empty. You're unusually happy early in the morning. Did something happen? Can't hide anything from Kiyosuke. Well, yeah, something did. If I were to say I saw Ellie in a swimsuit, he would probably have a heart attack. And what was it? Nothing important. Keeping secrets, eh? There's no secret, it just doesn't matter. Sometimes it seems like you're hiding classified information. Really? Why? Doesn't matter, he replied, mocking me. Okay, whatever. Hey, wait, that's all? Yep. What else was there to talk about? I glanced around the class looking for Kagome, but she never came. Catherine wasn't there either, but I was, surprisingly, not too perturbed by her absence. I'll tell you if you win a bet with me. Kiyosuke's eyes lit up. What's the bet? You have to keep quiet the whole day today. That's just mean. You're always like that. The bell rang and the teacher entered the class, followed by Kagome. Oh well, there was a full day ahead. The lesson dragged on slowly, especially so because I was time and time again replaying yesterday's evening in my head. Kagome saw me. There's no way she didn't. And she most probably was the one to call the police. Let's say she had a reason for that, at least from her point of view. But if Kagome and this Akira Moriyuki really had nothing to hide, then why would she? It would have been much easier to come out and say they'd never heard of Shinji. At least it would be less suspicious. As soon as the lesson was over, I jumped up and rushed to Kagome. I couldn't let her leave. We need to talk. Kagome pouted and frowned. What about? She made a bad actress. Himitsu could teach her a thing or two. You know what I'm talking about. Don't put up an act, please. At least not in the class. I don't Okay, as you wish. I don't really care what people will think of me. What about you? Kagome cast a quick glance at our classmates, but we hadn't caught their interest yet. Let's go. She nodded towards the door. A minute later, we were on the roof. I'm listening. The arms crossed on her chest and the focused expression on her face left no doubt that she knew what the conversation was going to be about. Her hair beautifully fluttered in the wind, and her figure resembled an ancient Japanese warlord intently watching the course of a battle from a hill. Just a couple hours prior, I thought there was no way to compare Milady Ellie to the peasant girl Kagome, but now I wasn't so sure. Well, she finally uttered with impatience. Are we going to just stand here? I woke up from the light stupor and said, Can you explain your behavior yesterday? Kagome's face seemed to be frozen in stone. She resembled a statue. Okay, then I'll talk for you. Yesterday, you got scared about some suspicious guy trying to get into your restaurant when it was closed and called the police, right? Is this something you normally do? Keep this up and your establishment will lose every last client. They come to eat sushi, they end up in a prison van. And who is Akira Moriyuki? Your father, uncle, maybe husband? At the word father, Kagome's cheek flinched. She was completely unable to hide her true feelings, and this detached mask was the only solution she knew. Not like it helped much. Father then, I see. Maybe you even know Akira Shinji? Oh, don't worry so much, I just need to talk to him about something. Kagome just kept standing there, looking at me intently. In a different situation, her cold glare would make me avert my eyes, but now I was too pumped up. Drop it already! What are you hiding? I'm not hiding anything. Kagome finally answered with a slight strain in her voice. And then it dawned on me. What if it wasn't about this particular Nikolai Anokin? What if she was just scared? Listen, don't think that... you have nothing to be afraid of. By the looks of it, I showed weakness, and Kagome's expression changed immediately. Afraid of you? You wish. I have no idea what you're holding speeches here about. I just didn't want to have this farce in the class. That's why I came with you. Oh, so that's how you talk now. I knew she was lying, and she knew I knew. The only question was if she had the confidence to stand her ground. And what was this seemingly quiet, unsociable girl hiding? Okay, if that's all. Kagome headed to the exit, but I appeared in her way. That's not all, Iwamura-san. Please do deign to explain yourself. Or do you want to say you do not live at the waterfront in the restaurant called Gifts of the Sea and you didn't see me there yesterday? Exactly. Her response was unexpectedly calm. We came to a dead end. I couldn't start torturing her, now could I? After you. I made a step back and gestured towards the exit. Kagome quickly, but not too quickly, walked past without sparing me as much as another glance. One thing was clear, she had something to hide. And I was trying to find out what was my father doing in Kobiyashi Corporation. Following Ichinose's lead, looking for this Akira Shinji. And in my searches, I ran into a classmate of mine, Kagome Iwamura, a shy, at least at first glance, timid girl whose only dream was clearly for people to stop bothering her. Where's the logic in that? Perhaps all of this truly was a wondrous coincidence and she acted like she did because she was scared? I returned to class and was immediately interrogated by Kyosuke. Nick, where'd you go with Iwamura? Not your business, I snarled. I had exactly zero desire to make up excuses he would believe. You've chosen an odd target, Casanova. Kyosuke smirked and bumped me in the shoulder. Bug off. I snapped and he immediately disappeared into the thin air. The next lesson started. No, I couldn't believe it. This couldn't be just a coincidence. Kagome was somehow connected to Akira Shinji, or at least knew something. I decided to follow her today. The school day dragged on painfully slow. During the breaks, I chatted with Kyosuke without letting my eyes off of Kagome. I didn't even go to lunch to keep her in sight. But I didn't notice anything suspicious, and why would I? Finally, the school day came to its end. The students started to get ready to go home. I quickly threw my books into the backpack and ran out of the class. The last person I needed to meet now was Himitsu, and she was certainly about to come. She would distract me, hinder me, and then Kagome would surely slip away. I hid behind a lamppost on the other side of the street, across from the school gates. The minutes of waiting felt terribly slow, my eyes darting to the clock over and over. According to it, barely any time had passed, but I couldn't escape the thought that Kagome knew what was going on and was long on her way home, her tail left behind. At some point, the flow of students started to grow thinner, the last lesson ending a good half hour ago. Quite a girl she turned out to be. I lingered for a couple seconds more and quickly crossed the street. I needed to get back and check. Something could have held Kagome back. But there she was. Iwamura ducked out from behind the gates and headed towards the station in a calm step. I virtually froze in place, my nerves and muscles strained to the limit, unable to move. I couldn't let her notice me. I made a titanic effort and walked past Kagome, giving her just a fleeting glance. Meanwhile, she didn't look at me at all. As always. Well, that's better than nothing. At that moment, I didn't want to think that this whole time she was watching me, waiting for a mistake. Well, why did I even assume Kagome was partaking in these espionage activities of mine? If I was paranoid, it didn't mean I was being watched. The distance between the two of us was growing rapidly, like between two cars from a school exercise. But this exercise also had the common point of destination, the Gifts of Sea restaurant. At least that's what I wanted to believe. The fastest way to get to its district would be the subway, and it was obvious what station Kagome would use. No matter if I was playing a private investigator alone or if it was a game for two, she wasn't about to run. Meanwhile, I had no problem choosing a different route and getting to the station before Kagome. The Tokyo subway warranted a separate mention. Of course, it didn't look nearly as majestic as the Stalin's Empire style of metro, and that's because the main point of the capital's transporting system was functionality. Stalinist architecture is distinguished by its scale and pomposity. An enormous number of stations and line changes, hundreds of kilometers of railways, integration with the system of the suburban trains. I and Himitsu got to the school on foot, so I didn't use this human anthill all that often. I guess somewhere deep inside it scared me, as did everything Japanese. Starting with the fact that, standing in a carriage, I was a good head and a half taller than the majority of people there. But this time around, the crowds of people were actually beneficial to me. It would be harder for Kagome to notice me even if she were to look. This time, I didn't have to wait long. Iwamura appeared at the station's entrance right on the clock. Perhaps she really was held back by something in the school. I boarded the carriage next to hers. So far, everything was going according to plan. We got off at the exact same station I was on yesterday. Gotcha, now she wouldn't be able to talk her way out of it. The narrow streets were giving place to each other, and it was getting harder and harder not to lose sight of Kagome, considering that it was dangerous to get too close. A turn, another, and I found myself staring at local kids and a line of fish merchants. I stopped and looked around. Iwamura was nowhere to be found. For fuck's sake! I swore aloud, causing an array of disapproving, askew glances from the old women at a stall. Ooh. How ill-mannered of you. A familiar sigh resounded from behind. It was Kagome. How? But it was useless to say anything now, so I just waited for her to tell me something. You know, I could just ignore you, Kagome uttered thoughtfully. But you don't look like someone to be worried about, so I'm asking you straight. What do you want? She became herself again, the haughty and discontent expression back on her face. But how much the situation's changed in a mere couple hours. There, on the roof, I was interrogating her, convinced of my righteousness. And what now? I was following a schoolgirl, following her quite a while, in Japan no less. If she were to go to the police, all of my problems wouldn't look as important compared to the possibility of a harassment lawsuit on my hands. I told you already, but I had to put a brave face on the sorry business. Or do you think I believed you just like that? A slight smile appeared on Kagome's face. Persistent, aren't you? Of course. But I've already said everything I wanted. And there was her old, cold disdain again. Why the performance then? You could have just called the police like yesterday. How did you even notice me so easily? It's a habit. A habit? Habit for what? You wouldn't understand. She suddenly lashed out. You don't get harassed every single day. Harassed? Why would anyone harass me? What are you even talking about? I flared up as well, even noticing that Kagome grew sadder. Didn't think much of it. It doesn't matter. She stumped her foot, and for some reason, this very strongly reminded me of Himitsu. If only it was as simple with Kagome as it was with her. We aren't finished. We are. Damn it. Kagome walked along the waterfront in a quick step, clearly heading to the gifts of the sea. I was trying not to lose her, lagging a couple meters behind. I'm not about to go anywhere, as you can see, I shouted, probably louder than I should have. She stopped abruptly and, facing away from me, said with a strain in her voice, What do you all want from me? Why can't you just leave me alone? It's like my life isn't hard enough without you. You have no idea how common people live. What do I have to do with any of it? I'm actually a pretty common guy. Kagome didn't respond. Listen, I understand it's not easy for you, those hoodlums in the school and all that. But believe me, I'm not like them at all. I'm not here to bully you. It just so happened that you are most likely somehow connected to a matter that directly concerns me. Kagome didn't respond. God damn it, do you think I'd mess with you if I had a choice? Yeah, sure, it's hard for you, and I'm just here having the time of my life. Oh, whatever. You don't want to talk? Fine. I turned around and started to quickly walk to the station. Wait. Kagome's voice, barely discernible behind the sound of the sea, reached me. Well? I shoot a short question, waiting for her. You first. Iwamura said stumblingly, avoiding my eyes. I first what? First, you tell me what you need from Akira Moriyuki or Akira Shinji. What's your business with them? At the moment, Kagome didn't worry me at all, so why couldn't I tell her the truth? Or at least a part of it. I recently found out that Akira Shinji worked together with my father and one other man in Kobiyashi Corporation. I have some questions to ask him. And what are those questions? Now Kagome was curious. Sorry, I don't want to say it's none of your concern, although maybe it is. It's just... I just don't want to put you in danger? But to be honest, I didn't really give a damn about her. Douchebag. These thoughts evoke a vicious feeling of shame somewhere deep inside of me. Good. You should be ashamed. It's personal information. Oh, so picking my brains for info is okay, but your highness may keep any secrets he pleases from the pitiful peasants? No, that's not what I meant at all. Kagome went back to square one. She was so fixated on her own problems, she exploded each time anything reminded her of them. Fine. I simply had no other choice. I recently found out there were many things I didn't know about my father's work. Well, I didn't really know anything. I received a strange note, strange people have been calling me in the middle of the night, so I'm trying to figure out what's even going on. I managed to find father's old colleague. He recommended me to look for Akira Shinji, who was supposed to know more. A note? A call? What are you trying to drag me into? I'm not dragging you into anything. Just a minute ago, you knew exactly nothing about any of it, and were perfectly fine. Well, that was a dumb thing to say. I mean, you have nothing to fear. You're not connected to me or my father in any way. Yes, but... God, what have I done to deserve this? I am kind of connected to Akira. Both Akiras. I gave Kagome a surprised look. Was it really so simple? But she looked like she'd already said everything she wanted and was now just intently studying the waterfront's pavement. Iwamura-san? Was that too formal? She did, however, respond. Akira Shinji is my father. He really did work in Kobiyashi Corporation, but then he was laid off and has to help my granddad now, Akira Moriyuki, in the restaurant. And what's so secret about this that you couldn't tell me before? Just because, Kagome scowled. But why do you and your dad have different surnames? He and my mother broke up when I was little, and I was living with her under her maiden name. But Mom died recently, and I moved in with Dad. I'm very sorry. Yeah, sure you are, Iwamura grinned. I mean, you're right, I didn't know your mother, don't know your father, or even really you. But how am I supposed to act now? Would you rather I kept silent instead of portraying fake sympathy? It's just a proper thing to do. Kagome wasn't ready to agree with anything, ever. But she knew I was right there, so she just ignored my remark and kept talking. I don't know anything about Father's work, but he's not that old. I'm sure he'd find a job in his field, but no one would hire him, I guessed. She nodded. This is all very strange. Well, thank you, Sherlock Holmes. Am I to be your Dr. Watson? She pulled the tips of her hair under her nose, making them look like a mustache. I involuntarily smiled. I like her. Well, if you want to be Watson, I'm okay with it. Onwards we go, to the gifts of the sea. No, Kagome responded, immediately returning to her normal disposition. Why not? You have nothing to do there. I will talk with Father and tell you everything afterward. Don't you think this whole thing concerns me a bit, too? What do you suppose you will even do there? You don't know anything yourself. Well, that's true, but... That's that then. See you. Kagome, wait. I grabbed her by the hand and immediately felt her tremble. Oh, she just looked so sad all of a sudden and scared. What was more unnatural to her, I wondered, the physical contact or being addressed by her first name? Sorry, I didn't mean to. Kagome froze in place, her arms thrown around herself. She even seemingly grew smaller. Come on, it's not that bad. You aren't going to leave me alone, are you? She asked quietly. As you can see. Fine, let's go. Reaching the gifts of the sea took a bit more time than I expected. Probably because yesterday I mostly ran to the station. Did you really have to call the police yesterday? Kagome shrugged. We may have a common interest here, so don't act like that. She raised her head and gave me a surprised look. What do you mean? Act like what? Whatever. Forget it. I raised my hand so hard it accidentally pushed a cart that had been passing by, and a fat fish flopped down onto the road, slid down the pavement, and only miraculously didn't hit anyone. God damn it. I ran after it and into a fat lady in a kimono, the force of the collision pushing me to the side. Maneuvering between people, I finally caught up to the runaway fish. But when I came back to Kagome, the cart was long gone. Are you alright in the head? The girl burst out laughing with a genuine heartfelt laugh, momentarily forgetting about everything that happened between the two of us and anything that could still happen. Yeah, see, I really like her. Look how cute she is when she smiles. Embarrassed, I turned away, feeling myself flush. Here, for you. I stretched the fish to Kagome. A nice tuna. Thanks. She knowingly examined the fish. Just don't expect me to cook something out of it. I didn't, really. You got a friend for that. Catherine? Catherine again? The one with red hair. Does she diet or something? How do you know about Himitsu? By the virtue of not being blind. Well, I guess you must be good at cooking, too. Must be. She gave a short reply and immediately added, Here we are. Today, the restaurant of Kagome's grandfather turned out to be open and packed with people. Well, I didn't exactly deserve a treat, but I'm really hungry. I hope I can at least get some food at your place if I pay for it. Wait here. I'll talk with father and come back. Yoromura said in a tone impatient of contradictions. Your wish is my command, mistress. I sat down on the border stones, drooling at the smells that reached me from the restaurant's insides. Instead of mistress, you should have called her Watson. That would have been fun. At the first glance, Kagome didn't have it that bad. Her grandfather owned a restaurant, her father held a decently high position in Kobiyashi Corporation until recently. Then why was she treated so badly? Even if you can't stand for yourself, the social status always helps. She wasn't at the level of the spoiled douches from our school, sure, but also nowhere near the bottom of society. A penny for your thoughts, young man. Addressing me was a pink-cheeked, noticeably a bit drunk, quite short old man. Just waiting for someone here. Girlfriend, eh? The smile on his face seemed to grow even wider. The narrow line of his eyes almost completely disappeared. You could say so. A friend in need. Young blood. The old man puttered off, humming an old Japanese song under his breath. I caught myself thinking that I reacted quite calmly to him. Probably just because I currently had other things on my mind. I was already about to go into the Gifts of the Sea when its door flung open, Kagome running out of them, clearly agitated. Uh-oh. Oh no. They took father. What? Who took him? She looked at me aghast, her breath wavy. They took father. Who took your father? Took where? Her eyes flashed and Kagome made a step back. It's you. It's all your fault. Hold on a minute. Calm down and think logically. If it's my fault, why would I put up all of this act? But calling for the voice of reason was useless. Come on, think about it. I'd be the primary suspect. On top of it, I was threatened too. I just wanted to talk. I didn't want to scare you. I'm sorry. I made a low Japanese bow. It could be that this happened to your father because of me. I didn't know what reaction I expected, but Kagome's expression grew softer, although she still looked grim like Mount Fuji before a storm. Grandpa said 2 decently dressed men came today. I immediately remembered the man who followed me a couple days ago. They asked to talk to father. Grandpa doesn't know what they talked about. Then father left with them and told Grandpa not to worry. But how is that even possible? I took a thought. Kagome was clearly right. To say there was a reason to worry would be to put it lightly. At the moment, I was completely convinced every event was linked. The note, the call, Ichinose, the kidnapping of Kagome's father. They were hiding something and covering their tracks well. But then why didn't they just kill me? Who would pay attention to the disappearance of an orphan schoolboy? No, there was clearly something more important going on. We have to call the police, Kagome said resolutely. If it's how you say, I don't think the police will help us in any way here. What could you even know? Think for yourself. We are talking about Kobiyashi Corporation, understand? They've got the whole of Japan under control. I'm going to call them and you can do whatever you want. Oh, no, I don't like these choices. I feel like calling the police might just tip them off somehow. I'll go with try to stop her. That feels like the Nick thing to do right now. Hold on a second, I'm telling you, you'll only make the situation worse. I didn't want to say that she at least still had her grandfather, but that was the truth. We need to wait and think it through. But Kagome had no intention of listening to me, and I felt an inexplicable desire to do my own thing. I was absolutely sure she was wrong. Wait! I grabbed her hand again and jerked her to the street. Let go! Don't touch me! Her voice was quiet, even too quiet against the drunken hubbub of the restaurant. I understand how you feel, but acting on emotions can only make things worse. I promise we'll find your father. I dragged you into this and all. Kagome stopped trying to break free. In truth, we've just got common interest. We find your father, he answers my questions. But now you need to calm down. She stood pressed against the doors, her head hanging low. Do you understand what I'm saying? Kagome made a slight nod. What do we do now? Oh, so now it's us? Well, I really didn't want to focus attention on her choice of words right now. Did your grandfather say anything else? He's not young, she replied after a long pause. He understands many things wrong, if at all. If not for me and a couple other employees, the restaurant would have long kicked the bucket. Really? It looks to be thriving from the outside. Kagome smiled sadly. But still, it all started with you, she said in a serious tone, although not reproachfully. You're mistaking the reason for the effect. Whatever is happening right now is just a consequence of something bigger. Me, you, your father, we're all just pawns in a game. Do you even hear yourself? Pawns in a game? You're talking like... I don't know. I don't want anything to do with it. My life's not sunshine and rainbows already. You may not be directly at fault here, but if only you kept away from us. I was looking at her and just couldn't understand why she wasn't crying. If the Mitsu were in her place, the tears would be flowing like a river at our first meeting at the station already. Even Catherine wouldn't have managed to hold on for this long. To tell the truth, I could hardly understand how I managed to remain seemingly cold-headed myself. Meanwhile, Kagome... Yes, she was angry, she acted irrationally and even foolishly, but at the same time, she persistently held her own. It may not have been a direct fight with a looming threat, not an attack with a drawn sword, but this reaction was more akin to a silent inviolability of an ancient cliff. Beaten by hurricanes, whipped by the winds, it would remain in its place even 1,000 years later, without advancing even a single step forward and without surrendering a single centimeter. She was used to this life, and I simply climbed into her orderly world, bringing chaos and destruction. Fine, you're right. I shouldn't have gotten you involved in all this. I turned around and was about to leave, but Kagome stopped me. Oh no, you won't. If you got me involved, you should bear responsibility. Do you have something in mind? Yeah, I've got an idea. You were talking about Kobiyashi Corporation, right? That's where we'll start. But how are you going to... Meet me tomorrow in the park across from their office in the downtown. And now I need to go to work. How can you even think about these things at such a moment? I was genuinely surprised. What about it? Who will help Grandpa if not me? Father wasn't of much help. He was good in lofty matters, in theoretical sciences, but when it came to slicing cabbage, Kagome let out a heavy sigh. Tomorrow, at noon. Yeah, okay. She disappeared behind the door, and I heard drunken shouts. Kagome-chan! Kagome-chan! The windows of my house burned with a dim light. It was about time I changed the bulbs. The front door creaked quietly, and a voice came from the kitchen. Nico-kun? Did she have some kind of detector tuned to me, I wonder? We didn't see each other all day. She started as soon as I came in. Yeah, sorry, I saw your note. I had some things to take care of today. At this point, even I could tell how implausible my lie sounded. Come, dinner's on the table. she said in her usual didactic tone, as if the events of the past week never happened. So, how are you doing? To be honest, I just wanted to forget this crazy day. Fine. She didn't even look at me. In a different situation, I would have probably tried to continue the conversation, find out why she was acting like that. But in this case, it was clear. How much could Himitsu go on like this? Well, if it wasn't entirely possible, I'd be killed before she gave up. And we agreed to go on a date, too. It's very tasty. In reality, I wasn't even paying attention to what I was eating. I'm glad. She responded as indifferently as before. So, I loudly threw the chopsticks down on the table. What? Are you going to keep acting like that? Acting like what? You know. I don't. And then I realized it was just her way of being upset with me. And Himitsu really did have things to be upset about. On the other hand, I didn't have to report my every step to her. I had a life of my own, a dangerous life sometimes, one she had no reason to be involved in. You know, you're right. I rose from the table and strolled through the kitchen. Something's happened in the last several days. It was best to tell her now. Nobody knew what could happen next. And forewarned is forearmed. It could be that I wasn't the only one in danger, that those close to me were too. And I had nobody closer than Himitsu. You must have noticed. Himitsu looked at me unblinkingly with her big green eyes. I'm being watched. To be exact, I came into the view of some mysterious people or a company. They didn't threaten me directly, but there's reason to believe I'm in danger. Nico-kun? Wait, let me finish. It was hard to look into her eyes, even though for the first time in a long while I was telling the truth. It's all connected to my father's work, or at least I think it is. And, well, it's probably not even about me. There was something bigger going on, and I just ended up in somebody's way. Nico-kun? Himitsu stubbornly repeated, growing even gloomier. I'll talk to Dad. He'll help. Don't tell anyone about this, I shouted, unexpectedly, even to myself. She flinched. You shouldn't. These people, they can do anything. They've got everything bought and paid for. Nico-kun, but how can we... I found a man who worked with my father before, and now he's disappeared. He was taken because of me, understand? I didn't want to tell about Kagome, didn't want to drag Himitsu deeper into all of this. You may be in danger too. If I'm with you, I'm not afraid of anything. She tried to smile. Are you kidding me? You say you've got nothing to fear with me? How can I protect you if I can't even protect myself? I had to calm down. Sorry, maybe it's not really that serious. I may be overthinking things. But in any case, don't tell anyone about this. Got it? Himitsu nodded. It's important. She wouldn't tell anyone, even on pain of death. Alright, I've got it. And most importantly, don't worry. I didn't want to scare you. Whoa. Nico-kun, I'm glad you told me the truth. Himitsu came up and hugged me. I carefully caressed her head and pressed her close. For a moment, I felt a burning desire for everything to be how it was, for my former life to return. How could I ever think it was boring? I just wanted to protect you. Himitsu trembled in my arms, crying. Come on, what is it? It's just... Why does it have to be you? You don't deserve any of this. Your parents, Kati-chan, now this. Catherine. It's been a while since I thought about her. Yeah, I'm having the time of my life. I guess that's just my luck. Can I? Himitsu didn't have time to finish, interrupted by the telephone's ringing. In the silence of the kitchen, its sound seemed like the thunder of a coming storm, still distant but already inescapable. I need to answer. Nico-kun? She hugged me closer. Don't worry, you. They wouldn't call me every day. It's a secret organization, not a telephone station, you know. I gently slipped out of Himitsu's embrace and walked to the hall. Hello? My voice didn't tremble, but I felt myself shrink inside. Nikolai. I let out a sigh of relief. Yes, Ryonosuke. I'm listening. It was Himitsu's father. Is my daughter with you? Sometimes I really couldn't understand why he was letting Himitsu spend so much time at my place. Surely he could find a better son-in-law. Yes, should I call her? No, he responded after a short pause. Just tell her to go home. Okay, definitely. I hung up the phone and returned to the kitchen. Your father called. He wants to see you. But I can't now. What, going to guard me? Don't. I'll be all right. I'll close all the doors for the night. Fine, but tomorrow I'll come early in the morning. Yeah, about tomorrow. I scratched the back of my head and looked away. I've got some things to take care of. Fine, tomorrow. I'm meeting with someone who can help me. We're meeting in the middle of the day in the city center. I'll be all right. I'll go with you. God, here we go again. That person is in a difficult situation right now. If we come together, it'll be suspicious. It won't take long. I'll call you as soon as I'm back. Fine. She pouted but conceded. But remember, I'll be waiting. Yes, ma'am. I saluted and smiled. Troubles sleeping come from idleness was something my father used to say. When you're so exhausted at the end of this day, there isn't any strength left to even brush your teeth. Insomnia is never a problem. Support this game on Indiegogo. Looks like I've reached the end of the demo, which is very sad because I'm dying to know what happens next. Alright, and that is the end of the demo for now. I know this episode turned out to be quite a bit longer than most of the episodes are, but I really wanted to get to the end of the game, and I had a feeling I was close, and it was getting so good, I didn't want to stop, I wanted to keep going. I hope you guys enjoyed the demo for this game. If you really like the game, feel free to support them on Indiegogo, because I love this game so far. I think this would be really fun to play the full version of. I'd love to know when it's actually going to be released. I don't even know if the Indiegogo campaign is still ongoing. I will check, and if it is, I will leave a link for the campaign in the description of my video. So that's the end for now. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, make sure to give it a big thumbs up, and feel free to leave a comment and maybe think about subscribing. That's all for now. I will see you all next time. Bye guys!